at the hands of Mustafa Kemal in 1924. That's the context in which we're talking about this war on terrorism and the current scenarios that are facing the world. Just to give you a few current examples with regards to Iraq, Paul Bremer, who was administrator of Iraq, when dealing with the issue of the constitution of Iraq, made it categorically clear that the Quran could not be the source of the constitution, but would be something we would reference, even though the Iraqi people made it very clear that they wanted to live according to the Quran. Donald Rumsfeld, with regards to the Iraqi elections, made it very clear that we would never tolerate an Islamic state within Iraq. George Bush very recently made a comment where he drew a similarity between terrorism and those people who call for the Islamic State, when he said that the terrorists are trying to overthrow the regimes within the Arab world and are trying to replace it with a state that spans from Spain to Indonesia. So Charles Clark made the statement that we will never negotiate with those people who call for the caliphate. So what we're seeing over here is a muddying of the reality, where these governments are drawing a comparison between terrorism and those people who are calling simply for Islam, and they're brushing it with the same stroke. And that's why the war on terrorism is indeed a war on Islam.
It's a question really of what you can do in the future rather than a question for immediate answer, although if you'd like to comment, I'd be very grateful. I'm involved in the 9/11 Truth Campaign in this country. I'd just like to say that there's a whole body of evidence building up both in the States and in our country and all sorts of other countries, saying from scientists, from academics, from physicists, even from celebrities and politicians, that the official version, as peddled by the American government about the events of 9/11, are absolutely not true. They cannot physically have happened the way that they've been described to have happened, particularly the collapse of the Twin Towers. So I'd just like to say, if anyone's got any comments or questions about that tonight, I'd be grateful. But also, please do go away. I'm asking you to go away and have a look at some of the information out there about that subject, because it is very much core to the whole discussion on the ensuing war on terror. There is a website in this country, 911.co.uk, 911 is words. Please go and have a look, and if anyone's got any comments.
Common room for dialogue in that kind of situation.
I find this a very frustrating question because I think under the present circumstances, the situation is sufficiently inflamed that people have stopped listening to each other primarily. You know, if things were actually to get worse with respect to, say, to American bombing in Iran, or if it should get to be a further militarization, I think it gets even worse. I mean, I personally, I don't want to talk about Iran yet. We can talk about that perhaps later. If you think of the traditional ways that governments have had of trying to build dialogue on complex subjects among peoples, of trying to have demonstration projects and monies for NGOs and exchange trips and people going to universities in each other's countries and all sorts of people-to-people things. I mean, of course, I think those are excellent things. I would spend an awful lot of money if I were any responsible government trying to build bridges of the educational and cultural sort on a large scale, starting at high school, university, lots of exchanges, more people going back and forth to each other's countries, because I think a lot of the perceptions that people hold of each other's countries are simply myths. But I think those sorts of problems, those sorts of solutions do not exist well in an inflamed political circumstance, and I think we have an awful lot of political baggage to take care of in Iraq, in Palestine, Israel, in Kashmir, and lots of other places. I think before this general perception, I think alluded to by the previous speaker, that there is essentially a belief in the West that we are the cradle of civilization and that we are dictating to others, which I don't actually think is a proper perception, but before that perception can be counteracted.
But that's quite important, because I think a lot of non-Muslim Westerners, when you hear, even from a Muslim Englishman like yourself, Akmal, you are thinking, are thinking like Malcolm Rifkin just said. You know, why are you saying that this is a war on Islam? No one's anti-Islam. No one's anti-Muslim.